Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of this Mac Pro tutorial series in which I show you all the ins and outs, how to make a Mac Pro like this ready for 2018. And yeah, basically if you want to jump to any particular part, you can use the navigation here in the bottom below. It should indicate at which part we are currently. And you can follow the links below to jump to the corresponding part. So let's continue with part 2, because right now I'm going to show you how to install macOS High Sierra on this Mac Pro 4.1, and the same principle also applies to the Mac Pro 5.1, only that there is a little bit easier, because if you have the 4.1 Mac, you have to do one extra step. So in essence, I think it's best I display this here in the side of the video. The first thing that I'm going to show you how to do is a firmware update from the Mac Pro 4.1 to 5.1. Basically, it's the same hardware. The only thing you have to do is to flash the firmware manually, and then your Mac Pro 4.1 turns into a Mac Pro 5.1, and you can easily install High Sierra. And the second thing I'm going to show you is how to create a bootable USB drive. Obviously, it's not going to have OS X line because that's really old. But I'm going to show you how to create a bootable USB stick with macOS High Sierra. That comes in really handy. And if you don't have a USB stick, a spare USB stick lying around, I mean, the USB stick I think should be 8 GB big, so it should not be like a tiny USB stick. You have to be careful of the size. But actually, in my case, I think I'm going to even take it one step further. I mean, maybe you have noticed the Mac Pro has like these super nice slots where you can put 4 hard disk drives in here. And I've just decided I'm just taking one of these hard disk drives, an old one, a small one that I have, and I'm gonna put the macOS X High Sierra on one of these old 160 gigabyte drives. I know it's a little bit crazy, but obviously if you take a USB stick that's more small and portable, it fits in your pocket. But one thing I know from experience, these old USB sticks, they're not as fast as when you put it in here, so that gives you blazingly fast install speeds. So next time around, I'm going to get much faster performance. But actually the choice is yours. You can create an installation medium from a USB stick, from an internal drive, or I think you could even use an external drive. So it really doesn't matter as long as we follow the correct procedure, like I told you, of first updating the firmware from 4.1 to 5.1, then just downloading macOS X and make a bootable drive. And then the last step is just install High Sierra. So how about we just get started, and I'm going to show you how to update the firmware. For this, we're just going to jump into the computer. So let's get rolling. So basically, also I'm using YouTube as well to do my research. So basically, I think I ended up watching this guy's video here. I think the guy has a YouTube channel called Z Pro Media, and basically he did somewhat of the same thing. But when I followed his advice, I really had a hard time to updating my firmware, and I was not getting anywhere, and did it over and over again. And I was like, oh my God, is this even going to still work? Until I did some more digging and I came to ifixit.com, a really awesome website that really saved my day. So that's why I want to share this with you guys today. That over here is the title. If you Google that, I followed exactly these tutorials, and basically I was doing everything right. The other tutorials that people made online on YouTube, they were not wrong, but they missed one critical thing, or maybe I just didn't notice it there, and that is, let me scroll down a little bit more here, disable the system integrity protocol. And basically what that means is that you guys just have to start from one of the USB drives that we're just going to create in a second, and start the installer. And then within the installer, you can just open like one of these command terminals, just type in a little bit of code. I'm going to show this to you in this video just in a second. And once you do that, you can really easily basically disable system integrity, update the firmware, re-enable system integrity, and then go ahead and install macOS High Sierra. And I just didn't know that I had to disable the system integrity with like some opening a console and stuff. So I was just trying to do the update, and the system reboots, but doesn't really do the update. So I gotten really frustrated and worried, oh my God, now I bought this very nice Mac Pro and I'm stuck with an old operating system. But luckily, the iFixit tutorial saved the day. So I'm just thinking, obviously, since you cannot disable the system integrity without having the installation media right here, maybe we should create the installation media first, disable system integrity, then come back to this and do the update. So I think I'm just gonna go ahead and show you how to create this bootable USB drive and how to disable the system integrity, and then we're gonna come back to this firmware update. So guys, the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go to the App Store, open up the App Store, and once you are inside the App Store, you go to apps made by Apple, and obviously here you have the option to download High Sierra. Now you need to have a Mac, maybe you have a notebook or something that supports High Sierra, or a friend's Mac that supports High Sierra to do this download. That this is important. Basically, that's how I did it. I just downloaded from a Mac that supports High Sierra. So let's get started with this. And as you can see, it's about 5 gigabytes that it's going to download. That's why I said earlier you should have an 8 gigabyte USB stick, something in that order, in that range. So I'm quickly going to wait until the download is finished, and I'm going to be right back. Also, what I noticed, maybe what you can do in the meantime while this is downloading, I totally forgot about this. You could plug in the USB stick, which I'm going to do right now. So here you should be able to see the old Corsair 8 gigabyte USB stick that I have here. And basically what I can do, if you go to utilities down here, you have all your system utilities. One thing that we're gonna need in a second is the terminal, which we might also can open already. And then this is gonna show up down here. And if you do a right click, you can also go to options and keep in dock. So then you have the terminal always permanently in your dock. And obviously if you don't want it, you can just drag it out. But what I really wanted to show you, because the download is gonna take 10 minutes or something, depending on your internet speed, is the application disk utility. If you're new to the Mac, maybe it's worth checking out the disk utility. I noticed that in High Sierra they changed the design of this a little bit. Obviously with High Sierra, the cool thing is that you get this new Apple file system that's optimized for solid state disk drive media, which that's what I have here. I have the 1 terabyte solid state disk drive in here. But right now, currently, we're interested in this Corsair flash memory. So what you could do, if you have any data remaining on that drive, you could also copy off that data to your other computer, make sure the data is safe, because basically we're going to totally format this drive and then obviously put the new operating system installer on there. Yeah. So basically what I wanted to say is you could erase this right now and give it a new file system. For example, here the macOS file system. Maybe we're just going to do this right now, push erase, and now it's going to convert it from a FAT file system to this Apple style file system, and success. So right now you should have copied all the data off your USB stick and maybe formatted it. And obviously you want to be careful not to format your hard disk drive right up here. Really stick to the USB stick. So since that is finished, our console window is open. Let's check back how the download is progressing. So guys, some time has passed, the download is complete, and once it is complete, you will be prompted with that kind of window, which right now we're not going to use. Because we don't want to install the macOS on this system. We want to just create a boot disk. So you just go up here, quit the installer, and then instead we just go to the applications folder, and you can locate the install file here, and then you right click on it, show package contents, and inside the contents there is a folder called resources, which we're just quickly going to open up. So next up, we quickly jump to the console and type sudo space, and then we drag this Unix executable over here that's called create install media. And basically all that will do is just put the path in here so that you don't have to type it all by hand. So after that, we just have to insert another command called --volume. And again, we are also gonna drag this Corsair USB stick. I showed you I prepared this earlier. I'm just dragging this over here, And again, all it does is give me the path to this memory stick. So one more command and I think we're gonna be ready. And yeah, basically I'm just gonna repeat what I did before, -- application path. And maybe what I can do is maybe make this a little bit bigger for you guys here so that you can see it. And I think I'm just gonna take these commands and I'm just gonna post it down in the description below the video. So maybe you can also just copy and paste it from there if you don't want to type it. And the final thing is we go back to the application folder and then take this and again just drag it in here, and again a third time it will just add that file path. And now only thing we're gonna have to do is hit enter. And obviously it since it writes something on this USB stick, it will overwrite this USB stick, so it asks you for the password just to confirm it that you don't delete any data accidentally. And yeah, maybe as you can see here, it also asks you a time to approve it. So this is what I'm going to do. So you already see it was, I think, a little bit redundant what I did earlier where I showed you this disk utility, because it's going to erase it anyway. So now I erased it twice, but the point is just type yes and hit return, and then it's gonna create the install disk. And like I told you earlier, you can basically do this with a USB stick, you can do it with an external hard disk drive, or I believe you can also do it with an internal hard disk drive, which I did previously before. Right now I'm just showing it for a USB stick because obviously not everybody has a Mac Pro. So if for some reason someone watches this who doesn't have the Mac Pro, then you don't have these internal drive bays where you can just slide it in and out. But guys, I've tested it. I have also created an installation bootable install drive on an old hard disk drive that has serial 88 that's just lying around. I don't use it anyway, and it's really fast internally, much faster than the USB stick probably ever is going to be on that iMac. I'm just going to wait a little bit, have this install finished, and then maybe I continue tomorrow. It's getting dark outside, but for you it will be instantly. So I'm gonna be back tomorrow in just a second, so let's do this. So welcome back, guys. We have another day and success. I finished to create this bootable USB stick, 8 GB USB stick with High Sierra on it, so I can plug this now into my Mac Pro and start the installation process. Only one thing to note is if you want to enter the boot screen, you should make sure to have the stock graphics card in here, because that's really one thing I noticed when I put in the non-Apple graphics card. The non-Apple graphics card has some different kind of firmware as opposed to the stock Apple graphics card. The stock Apple graphics card comes with some custom BIOS or something. So basically what that means is if you start up your Mac and push down the Alt key to enter into the boot screen, which I'm going to do and show you in just a second, with a non-Apple graphics card, the boot screen will not show. So you cannot select to boot up from the USB drive, which is kind of inconvenient. That's why I really recommend, if you ever do a graphics card update, make sure you keep the old graphics card. What I did, I just made sure the old Apple graphics card is in there just for the purpose of booting up the system. So that's why in essence this is really valuable to have like one of these old graphics cards. And guys, yeah, like I told you, if you don't want to use the USB stick method, use one of these internal drives. You can just pop this in right here, just like so, and then secure it, and then that could work the same way as the USB stick works. And in my case, obviously I did exactly that already. Instead of creating the USB stick, I put it on a hard disk drive and then installed it right over here to my 1 terabyte Samsung. And let me tell you, that is a night and day difference. It's much faster. So if you're planning to reinstall your system every now and then, this hard disk drive method is really my secret tip for getting blazingly fast install speeds on your old Mac. But yeah, for demonstration purposes, because I mean, sometimes people also want to use this on their MacBook or something. So a USB stick, I can see that it's kind of handy. It's like the trade-off. With the USB stick, you have the compact size and you can easily plug this into your notebook. With the hard disk drive, obviously you're restricted to this particular system. So, but in any case, why don't I just take this real quick, plug this in here, and then put everything back together and show you how to boot up the system and prepare the install. So guys, and basically there are two things you can do immediately after turning on the Mac, and that is go to your keyboard and either press the Alt key. That will send you to the following screen, and as you can see here, those are the drives that are inside my Mac. I have the main system that I installed on the SSD. Then I have this drive that I just plugged in a second ago, and this is the recovery partition. And here is the drive we just created together, the macOS install High Sierra on the USB thumb drive. So basically you can select whatever you want. I just did that by holding down the Alt key for a while immediately after turning on the Mac. So I could just click on this right now and start the installer, which I'm probably going to do in a second. But just for demonstration purposes, what you alternatively also can do, what it explained in the iFixit tutorial, is hold down Command R, and in what Command R should do is exactly the same, except instead of giving you this choice, it will boot you right away in this recovery partition. So I think I'm just gonna push this and it should do the same. And let's quickly disable system integrity. And so yeah, guys, basically I booted into this from my old operating system into this recovery partition. Let's just quickly go here to the desktop, and then what the iFixit tutorial recommends you do is to go up here to utilities and open up the terminal. And I hope this shows up properly. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to type CSR util disable, and then you would hit return and it would disable it. And that is basically the prerequisite so that you can manually flash the firmware from your Mac Pro 4.1 to 5.1. And that was the thing that I initially forgot to do. And that's why I had such a trouble in the first place until I found this really useful iFixit tutorial right here, where I put the link in the description below as well, if you want to refer to that. So basically what I recommend is you head over to the iFixit website and scroll down to the link that is here, the Mac Pro EFI update that comes straight from the Apple website. And like I told you, this is a tutorial that is mainly targeted at the Mac Pro 4.1. So you wouldn't want to do that if you already have the 5.1. Just download this file right here, then head back to the iFixit website and download the firmware update tool, which you can see is a zip file down here. You'll just click on that. And then in my case, I put both of those on the desktop. So what you just do is you start this update tool. And as you did see, it would not allow it. So I just right click and open, and now open. And it starts. So in my case, it displays a warning because I went through the process already. The software is also able to downgrade. So that is good. I did all that. In your case, you would upgrade basically this downloaded firmware right here. And I believe this update tool also needs internet connection. So just read the description here. It explains it. Do the upgrade. And then once the firmware update is complete, make sure to once again boot into this mode that I showed you, the install mode, and boot into the installer or the recovery with pushing down the Alt key or Command R, I believe was it. I mean, it's all explained in the iFixit tutorial. So as long as you read through that tutorial, if you don't have an iPad next to you, just print it out. Basically, you can't do anything wrong. I think, at least for me, it worked really well. Important is only re-enable, make sure to turn on system integrity again, because previously to do this manual firmware update, I showed you how to disable it. So just do the same step and enable it again, and you should be able to just boot your Mac Pro right up, hold down the Alt key, and install High Sierra. So basically right now I have the bootable USB drive and I have my already installed system. So I went through this process. If you want to install High Sierra, obviously you would just click on that and it would start the installer. I'm not going to do this right now because I already went through the process, but you get the idea. Now there are two really nice things about doing this manual firmware up there. The first thing is that if you look for prices, what I noticed, the Mac Pro 5.1 tend to be more expensive if you buy them used on eBay. So you can really have a nice bargain if you just buy a cheaper 4.1 and upgrade it. Like I said, the hardware is more or less the same, so there is no real difference, other than you have to go through the manual process to save some money. And the second awesome thing is that once you have completed the manual firmware update and installed High Sierra, you can use a brand new graphics card like the Sapphire Radeon RX 500 series, and specifically the 560, 570 and 580 should work fine. What doesn't work is the 550, but more to that in the description below in the part where I have the graphics card tutorial. So this concludes part 2, where I showed you how to create a bootable USB drive or hard disk drive. I showed you how to update the firmware. I referred you to the iFixit tutorial that helped me so much, where I had trouble doing the update first. I reminded you that if you want to enter that boot screen, you should keep your old Apple graphics card. And also I told you that if you want to put in one of these new graphics cards, it really makes sense to go through this process first and install High Sierra, because once you do that, once High Sierra is running on your Mac Pro 4.1 that has now turned into 5.1, these graphics cards are supported natively. I can just plug in this card right now and it will be detected by the system just right away. So that concludes this tutorial. You've learned how to save some money by doing this manually. Obviously, if you don't want to go through that trouble, just spend a little bit more and get the Mac Pro 5.1. Yeah guys, I hope this helps. So it's a little bit cumbersome process. You have to do all these little things step by step, otherwise it won't work. But that's why I said in the introductory video, if you just want to have a Mac system that you just take out of the box and use right away, then maybe you should not get like one of these old systems. Personally, I think these old systems are really great because they have these accessibilities. You can put in hard disk drive, swap the graphics card. That's really cool. But you have to put in some work. So yeah, it's kind of like a labor of love. You have to put in some love into these machines to make it ready for 2018 and beyond. Guys, I see you in the next video. Use the navigation below and take care.
And up next in this tutorial series, I'm going to show you how to boost double the speed of your solid state disk drives with the Mercury Excelsior S, which gives you the full SATA 3-speed, and I'm loving this very much. Surprisingly, more and more people have already decided to subscribe to my channel, and I can only attribute this to the content that I produce. It must be really of some value to people, so don't miss out on that. And yeah, stay tuned for the next video. Take care.